Hello guys, and welcome to a new tutorial, a new GTK tutorial. And of course today we are going to talk about GTK adjustment. What are those adjustments? Well, as we already saw in the last video, we saw that if we create a spin button like this one here, needs an adjustment so to make it work. So basically, to make work this spin button, we had to use an adjustment, and this adjustment which we are setting, we saw that has some values, like the main value, which finds itself between low and upper values, something like I already told you yesterday. Just imagine you have a volume control here which has the lower value set to 0 and the upper one set to 100. So basically, if you set the value here at 50%, this means the value which the spin button will have it will be 50%, the same value which our volume button has it to 50%, which means now if I shut down my computer and I will start it again, if I want to hear music or something, if I want to play something, my volume control will be at 50% because there what was set. So that being said, this is the story with set value. Okay, so that being said, let's see what this function does, or better said, let's see what the reference manual says about this function. So we are here to GTK adjustment. We saw that it is a representation of adjustable bounded value. So this means just think about it as a way how you can provide your scale or your spin button to can be set it through user commands, if I can call it that, like when the user needs to set it through its mouse pointer. Okay, so this is the adjustment. Here are those functions. There are a lot of them, but we are going to talk about all these functions. We are going through them. Okay, not all, almost all, because there are functions which are already deprecated, like I think the adjustment, yes, the GTK adjustment change and adjustment value change, they are deprecated. So this means because they are emitting these signals, so we are basically have to take care of these signals. Okay, next we have those properties which help us to set them with, for example, with GTK object set, so that we have to not call all these set functions here one by one. You just can work in one function by setting these properties. There are those signals, change and values, and so on. Object hierarchy, as you can see here, the GTK adjustment itself inherits from only two classes through until the main class, which is GObject. So basically, this is everything about this adjustment. And since the GTK adjustment object represents a value which has an associated lower and upper bound, as you can see, it is an object. So it is not a widget. Don't try to treat it like a widget, because it is not. Together with step and page increments and page size. So basically what I was telling you about, those things had to work together so that you can make adjustment work. So this means you need to set them all. Even if you set them to 0, some of them, they are still set to something to work. If not, they are the thing which you are working with, like spin button in our next example, it will not work. Okay, it is used with several GTK widgets, include GTK spin button. This is what we are talking about later, and then after we are going to talk about the viewport range and scroll bar and scale and so on. The GTKAdjustment object does not update, so this means everything that is changed, it has to be updated. So this means the value itself is not updated. Instead, it left to the owner of the GTKAdjustment to control the value. This means you. Okay, so that being said, let's go back. Not so back. I wanted to go here, up here where the functions are, and I kind of sorted them so that we can understand them better. So let's start with the first one, GTKAdjustment new. And this function says creates a new adjustments, all those 6 values which we have here. So basically, let's call this function. We need the GTKAdjustment pointer at the beginning, so let's create one, adjustment. Now that we have this pointer, we need values. I will copy them. I will throw them here. Okay, so I will set them all to 0. And then we are going to call the GTKAdjustment new, and there we're going to pass those values. So value is the first one, lower is the second one, upper is the third one, step increment is the fourth one, and then goes with a page increment, the fifth one, page increment, and the last one, which is the page size. Okay, so basically what we did here, we created an adjustment through GTKAdjustment new function, and we are setting its 6 values to 0. So basically it is the same thing which we have here. So those values are set to 0. Being set to 0, we cannot do nothing with our spin button, so those values are dead. Okay, now let's see the next function, which is GTKAdjustment set value. Let's go back to GTKAdjustment set values here, and says sets the adjustment value. The value is claimed to lie between lower and the upper. This is what I was telling you. You need to set those values so that the value itself fits between them. So if you have no upper and lower set, then the value cannot be adjusted. You cannot put 50% here if you have 0 to 0. Okay, so let's call this function, which says this function returns nothing, it's void, and takes 2 parameters. The first one is our adjustment, and the second one is the new value. Okay, so let's see. The first one is our adjustment, and the second is the value. So the new value, it will be now, let's change it. Let's say value it's equal to 0 for a moment. Even if we set it again to 0, it will be still 0 for a second. Now what we did here, we created a value to 0 because we have no lower and upper set. We cannot take the benefit of this change or value change. Now the next one, it is our lower function, which was here, and says set the minimum value of the adjustment. So when setting multiple adjustment property via their individual setter, multiple change signal will be emitted. Just be careful. However, since the emission of the change signal is tied to the emission of the notify signals of the change probability. It is possible to compress the change signal into 1 by calling GTK. Okay, we were not talking about these things, so we are not going to go through them. Anyway, it takes the adjustments and takes the minimum value. Okay, so that being said, we are going to call this function now. As you can see, it needs the first parameter, it's adjustment, and the second is the lower. So we are going to set this time lower. We are going to set it to 0 again. We don't need this here. Let me just try, if possible, to not work with global variables. At least only if you have no choice, then work with them. If not, just don't do it. Okay, so now we set the lower to 0, which means now that we have the 0 value set here, and now we have the lower value set 0. Basically, it's this one. When I drag the volume control to 0, this means this is the lower what I want setting. Now let's move to the next one, which is the upper, and the upper sets the maximum value of the adjustment. So this means basically how much you can drag it here. So I can drag it to 100%, so I will set it now to 100%. Just to be sure, let's make some change. So 0, we set the value 0, we set the low is 0, and now we will set that the upper is 100. Okay, so basically now we have these things here. Okay, let's go here and make those changes. Upper, we set it to 100, and then we call the function. The first one is our adjustment, and the second is our upper. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. The next one is the step increment. So basically this means when I push the minus or plus button, how the increment takes place, 1 or 2 or 3. So I will put now 1. So this means I'm going to make changes only to 1. So by setting increment step to 1, like here, I can, now watch, now I can change it. See, 1 2 3 4 5, and go back to 1. See, so basically now I can step through lower and upper with step increment 1. Okay, so that thing we are going to do it here also. So the first thing which we need to do is to set the step increment to 1. Okay, so it is a double. Let's use 1 0 100 0. Okay, adjustment, and then step increment. And now the next thing, let's move on to the page increment. Page increment says set the page increment of the adjustment. See that it comes about how to compare multiple. Okay, you see, it doesn't explain what exactly means page increment. Anyway, page means your page up and page down key on your keyboard, or if you have a laptop, like I already told you in my last tutorial, I have many laptops. One of them, it is a laptop where I have no page up or page down, or in German, like I have build up and build down. I have only FN key, and by using this FN key I have to hit the up and down arrow. So FN up, FN down arrow makes the same thing. Okay, so that being said, let's see what's the story with this page. Let's set it before. So page increment, we are going to set it to 10. Okay, adjustment and page increment. Okay, so what we did here, we said page increment has to be to 10, like you see here. We set it to 10. So now watch, when I hit the button here, plus or minus, when I increment and decrement, it increments and decrements to 1, you see. So what does page size increment does is basically when you hit your page up and page down, it will update the button, the spin button, to 10 this time and not to 1. Watch. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 and 10, and goes back, you see. So basically this thing does the page increment. Okay, now let's move to the next one, which is the page size. Let's see what the manual said about this. It says set the page size of the adjustment. See the GTK get set lower. About how to compress multiple emissions of GTK adjustment. Change signal. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, you see, it is a bullshit. Okay, it is quite clear, but for someone who doesn't really understand what the story is, it is quite complicated. And of course it's complicated because this thing does different things. But in our case here, working with our spin button, setting this to a value, now I will set it to 0, basically does nothing. What means this? We have a lower value of 0 and the upper value of 100, so this means I can go to 0, I can go to 100, you see. Okay, now if I told you that if we set the value to a value like 50, you see it's changed. We have 50, the same thing like we are setting here our volume button to a position where we need to have it next time when we start our computer, for example. The same thing does this one here. And now the cell lower and upper, we said it is to 0 to 100. But what about if it's not allowed to go beyond a number, let's say 5%? So this means you cannot drag this volume button lower than 5%. Well, for this, here is the lower. Watch, let's set it to 5%, to 5. Now it's set to 5, so I go down now. You see, it's not working. It's working only until 5. So this means I have now 5 to 100. So this is basically what this does. Upper, it is upper, you know how up you can go. The stepping down page we were thinking, and now let's see the page size. What does if we now set it to, I don't know, let's say 15. You see, the page size was set to 50. What does means? Well, we saw that by setting the lower to 5%, we cannot go lower than 5. This means this is the lowest value which it's allowed for us to spin down, if I can use these words. Now, what's the story with this 15? Let's see, let's go up. Bam, we are to 85. Why is not 100? Well, 85 plus 50 makes 100. Let's say 22. Let's go down now. Let's go up. We have now 78. It's not going up more. So 78 plus 22 makes 100. So basically, this is what set page size does in this example to our spin button. This means you can set how much from upper you can use and how much from lower you can use too. So this is basically the settings which you are setting them by creating this adjustment which applies to our spin button. Okay, so that being said, we're talking today about adjustment, how we create one, and then we're talking about how we can set its values, so what these values means and where and how we can use them. And once that we understand now, we can move to the next functions. In the next one we are going to talk about another functions which they are provided for us, and then once that we work with them we can move to the properties and signals on, and then only then we can move to a widget which takes benefit of this adjustment, because once that you understand this adjustment, trust me, you can work with your scale or range or spin buttons and a lot of other things where adjustments are needed. Okay, so that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.